really the strategy for this back to school?
So retailers are, they're, as you know, are struggling because they still have the excess inventory. So let's use Walmart as an example. Walmart and have both been very, transparent about the fact that they had excess inventories. They're trying to pull people out of the food aisle where they're spending most of their dollars and trying to pull them into the other aisles. So clothing is a really good example where they're investing in price and clothing in order to pull them beyond, just filling their baskets with the food with the dollars they have to spend. But they're investing in some categories like that. The retailers that look like they're going to win in back to school are the more discounted mass retailers, dollar store, versus kind of online and versus some of the more expensive ones.
Mary Lou, what does it tell you about the mindset of the consumer right now, more broadly speaking, and the outlook for spending, which has been it's always important to the U.S. Economy specifically, but, we all kind of marvel that the consumer has been out there and being able to continue spending. We do wonder when it stops. So what does it tell you, if anything, more broadly about consumers?
Yeah, so what we're hearing from the consumers is they're a little cautiously optimistic, but also still being cautious. So they are still spending, but what is inflation has come down a tiny bit and gas prices have come down a little bit. That hasn't necessarily translated to prices coming down in retail because there's still the increased labor costs. There's still the, supply chain pressures. So they're not seeing it, so they're still being cautious, and they don't want to be in a situation where we really do head into a recession at some point in time. And, they have only so much in that budget. So if they're not out there, they're not making more. The salaries didn't keep pace with inflation, so their dollars have to stretch further. So while they're spending more going into this season, they're still trying to be a lot smarter about it, and I think they're cautious.
How about electronics? Yeah, Mary Lou, how about electronics? It seemed like every kid, when he or she was working from home, had to have a laptop or a Chrome thingamajiggy. Where are we now in that kind of spending? Is that facing some tough comps?
So yes, they're forecasted to be down year over year. Electronics definitely will be down. There's two things contributing to that. One is that many of the schools have provided some of the technology, that was needed when we were in that hybrid model and people didn't have the technology. And then it's one of those categories where if I don't need the technology right now, why don't I wait until Black Friday where the prices may be a lot more competitive? Or I'm going to use that laptop or, the iPad or whatever technology I have been using. I'm going to use that for another year or two. Because I don't need it. I don't need to upgrade it to still be able to go to school and do my homework.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Hey, Mary Lou, thank you so much. Mary Lou Gardner, she's Associate Partner for Consumer Packaged Goods, Retail, and Logistics over at Infosys Consulting, on the phone from Naples, Maine. We do have a headline crossing the Bloomberg Terminal. Blackstone and single-family landlord halts purchases in 38 cities. They have been on a tear buying up.
I have to admit, I don't really understand their strategy. I understand their strategy, flipping and that type of thing, but it just didn't seem like a business for Blackstone and private equity,
But it was massive.
I know, it was, and they were buying up everything, and now, when you see these folks, back up, that is the peak in housing.
Home Partners of America, single-family landlord owned by Blackstone, will stop buying homes in 38 cities, and that company was acquired back in June of 2021 for $6 billion. Peak, top, I don't know.
I sold its peak.
This is Bloomberg.
All right, join Brian Curtis at 6 p.m. Wall Street time for Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. Tonight's guests include Sean Darby, Chief Global Equity Strategist at Jefferies, with a look at Day 1 at Jackson Hole. That's Daybreak Asia tonight at 6 on Bloomberg Radio.
What's happening in D.C.?
This is turning into a very different campaign cycle.
Bloomberg's Joe Matthews speaks to the insiders with the answer.
The former ambassador to China is with us
And brings you the top stories of the day from in and around our nation's capital.
Nearly $40 billion emergency Ukraine spending bill.
Bloomberg Sound On with Joe Matthews. Weekday afternoons at 5 on Bloomberg 1130, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com.
Dear Calvary Hospital, how can I thank you? The expert palliative care you provided my wife Susan at the end of her life was beyond words. You were remarkably sensitive to our needs as a Jewish family. The love and caring from your entire staff was incredible. You provided Susan with not only a place to die, but also a peaceful community to lead this life as she lived it, with dignity. Because of you, my soulmate died in peace, which assures me that she will yet rest in peace. In the most ironic and beautiful way, your care for Susan, my dolly, during her final days was life-saving. God bless you, Calvary. Rabbi Jeffrey Serkman.
This is Frank Calamari, president of Calvary Hospital, where life continues. Call us at 718-518-2000. Thank you.
As the former head of aerospace giant Boeing's internal training program, Norma Clayton is a longtime champion for advanced manufacturing. That's why she's a major supporter of NJIT and the university's drive to develop leading-edge skills and technologies demanded by industry.
The technology curve as we know it today is about every 6 months. And so for a university like NJIT, they have to stay on the cutting edge. And one of the things that they have launched is this makerspace, a simulated operational environment of what the student is going to experience when they leave the classroom and go to work in industry. They work on projects that include problems that come directly from corporations. I was talking to one of the instructors there and he said, so what do you think? I feel like I'm in the factory of the future. And that's what you want. You want students to see that this is exactly what you're going to be doing when you leave here.
NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology. Learn more at njit.edu.
Some bonds last a lifetime. Some bonds inspire confidence. And some you grow to rely on. These are the bonds worth investing in. For over 50 years, PIMCO has reinvented fixed income to create opportunities for investors in every market environment. So no matter what happens, you can build the bonds that mean the most to you. PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income. Learn more at pimco.com/bonds. All investments contain risk and may lose value. Consult your investment professional before investing.
Look beyond the ordinary with Global X ETFs. From cell phones to smartwatches, our world is more connected than ever. Even average household items like toasters now have the capability to connect to the internet. As innovation and investment in digital infrastructure continues to increase, technologies like 5G and the Internet of Things are growing exponentially. Visit globalxetfs.com to discover these themes and more for your portfolio.
No company wants to be involved in an international dispute. But when disagreements arise, you need expertise at your side. Take a closer look at ICDR, the International Center for Dispute Resolution. Backed by the longevity and strength of the American Arbitration Association, the ICDR is the world's leading provider of cross-border dispute resolution services, handling more cases than any other institution. Find out why global expertise matters. Visit ICDR.org.
All right, it is 4:29 on Wall Street. Time for drive time traffic. Do it every 15 minutes. Ed Kleggy, how are things at the Holland Tunnel?
Holland Tunnel falls at about a 40-minute delay right now to leave town. Back into town, 15 minutes from 1 to 9. A half hour to leave over at the Lincoln Tunnel, 10 minutes back in, down and around the Helix. George Washington Bridge, slowing the span up and down. The inbound delays, at least for now, they're gone. If you are in Manhattan trying to get up to the bridge, a difficult task. The west side heading 60s all the way on up. And essentially now on the east side from about 75th Street on up. And then you've got southbound delays down the FDR, looks like from the RFK, back down in towards the 60s. And then southbound over on the FDR Drive, some slow traffic as you come in. There is an accident near the Brooklyn Bridge. Now the ride in Westchester, very slow one on the eastbound cross county, headed in towards the Hutch. The Hutch northbound jammed up to 287. And look for an accident where the left lane is blocked. The southbound ride equally slow. The Bloomberg 1130 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, partly cloudy skies, low 70 to 75. Friday, a chance of a late day shower or a thunderstorm, high 85 to 90. Saturday, sunshine, less humid, high 85 to 90. And Sunday, partly sunny with a high near 85. Mostly sunny in New York, current temperature 88 degrees. With the best ride in Annapolis City, I'm Ed Kleggy, Bloomberg 1130, Bloomberg Business Week continues.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 106.1 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Business Week.
All right, you are listening and watching Bloomberg Business Week. Carol Master, along with Paul Sweeney. He is in for Tim Stenovic today. One of the big stories, and we talked about it a little bit earlier when we looked at Chinese ADRs and how they're trading in the U.S. They've been on a tear for a while, but they also got a big bump up because of, again, another round of stimulus, Paul. So we're going to talk China in a big way in just a moment.
Yeah, China's been in the news, and boy, we've seen a lot of regulatory overhang on those names, but maybe a little bit of life.
All right, we'll get to that with David Riedel in just a moment. First up, though, back to a lot of news after the close, Doug Krisner.
Yeah, I want to begin with Gap. There's a lot to unpack here, Carol. The company reported adjusted EPS of 8 cents. Now, the street had been looking for an adjusted loss of 6 cents. 8 cents profit versus expectations 6 cents loss. So by that measure, better than expected. Now we have to back up and apply the context. If you include inventory impairment and a $35 million charge related to the company's Old Navy business in Mexico, Gap posted a net loss for the second quarter of 13 cents. That compares to profit a year ago of 67 cents. So a very different company, right? Now, at the same time, Gap is withdrawing its prior outlook for fiscal 2022. Gap has been struggling to sell outdated Old Navy items. Maybe you want to call them Old Navy items. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Shares are up 7% right now in the late U.S. session. The equity market is advancing, or it did advance, I should say, in the regular session. We finished at session highs. The Dow is up 1% today. S&P 500 better by 1.4%. NASDAQ comp up 1.7%. We had a number of hawkish comments ahead of the Fed chairman's speech tomorrow at Jackson Hole. We'll be talking more about that as we continue here on Bloomberg Radio. I'm Doug Krisner, and that is your Bloomberg Business Flash.
Old Navy? Is it like a dad joke?
Yes, it's a dad joke. I couldn't resist.
Well done. Doug Krisner, thank you so much. All right, so the U.S. and China, the world's most important and biggest global economies, as we await the next steps of the U.S. central banks and Jay Powell's comments tomorrow from Jackson Hole, China continues to amp up its stimulus measures to help out its slowing economy. And, Paul, overnight, they put a further 1 trillion yuan, or 146 billion U.S. of funding, largely focused on infrastructure spending. But many say it's still not enough to really counter the damage from repeated COVID lockdowns and a property market slump. So we really wanted to get into what's going on in China.
Right, and we do that with David Riedel, president and founder of the Riedel Research Group, joining us on the phone from San Francisco. David, again, some big moves by the Chinese government to stimulate their economy, but I kind of step back and say, if I've got an economy that's opening and closing on a regular